Premier League is finally back and the Boxing Day fixtures are here and a few of them are pretty tasty. One in particular, Arsenal against West Ham. I think you've got a team here that could have kept going. They were enjoying the momentum in Arsenal, and then a West Ham side that were really, really struggling, currently 16th in the Premier League after all that success in the last couple of years. With the winter break having occurred, do you think that it's going to be tricky for West Ham with this one, Naveed? Because you've got Paqueta, you've got Agüerd, you've got Declan Rice, three players who've played a lot of minutes and are, I mean, Paqueta less so, he's not really played the games for West Ham as of yet, but Declan Rice in particular, I was listening to someone, it was saying that between June 2021 and June 2022, he played 68 games.
Wow.
Yeah. And so to carry on, if you think of this season, the amount of games that he's played as well, and then he's gone and played a World Cup, and now he's back and he's going to be so important for West Ham. Do you think that's going to be tough for West Ham coming back into it, where you want a bit of a response, but your best, most crucial players have been playing a lot of football?
I think West Ham are generally struggling. I think they've got a mishmash of players. David Moyes had some money to spend, and I think they haven't spent it as well as they maybe should have. Then I think you look at
what makes you say that?
Well, I think he's brought in Paqueta, and I don't think he actually knows how to use him at the moment, which is why we haven't seen him feature. I think if you watch this World Cup and he wants to possibly figure out how to use him, you go, now I know where to use him. And I think he's that good a player.
Thanks, Teachy.
Yeah.
That's what he is. Yeah.
I think you go, there you go, pop him next to Rice. Rice is an interesting footballer. In my head, I feel like Rice has actually played every game for like the last 10 years because he's that sort of footballer. He just plays week in, week out, never gets injured, always available, runs the most in every single game. So I don't think there's that much of a concern around him. I think the concern will be, we went into the break with in really poor form. We've come out of the break with Arsenal, the first game, who are sort of like bouncing and ready to go for sure. I think West Ham are kind of going like, we could have done with a few more weeks off.
Do you think? Well, so I guess there's two ways of looking at this. You've got to play top of the league at some point, generally in a season. Is this a great time for West Ham to take on Arsenal?
Yeah, probably. Arsenal, we've already talked about Gabriel Jesus' injury. And I think it's almost a lottery, these first games back. It's anything can happen. The squads aren't going to be at full strength. I did feel for David Moyes, though, during the World Cup, because, like I say, Paqueta's performing very, very well for Brazil. And then you saw Naif again, who's barely played for West Ham this season. And he was, at the end of the tournament, walking wounded. He was not in any shape to be starting games.
David Moyes watching that going, get him off.
And I think you got that a lot in this World Cup, where there's players who are playing through injuries that they probably shouldn't be playing through. And West Ham struggled at the centre-back position. Obviously, Kurt Zouma's been in and out the side of injuries. Craig Dawson's not spring chicken. And West Ham last season were built on defensive solidity, and they haven't really had that this season. They've lost some silly games. I remember watching them get battered by Brighton at their place. And it's not been a great season, and there has been a bit of a hangover of West Ham. And also an identity crisis in terms of where they're at. Like, are they a side that should be pushing for Europe, or are they a side that should be content with finishing in the top 10? And this season they're not doing either of that. They're near the bottom of the Premier League table. So it's been a tough season for West Ham, but the break might have been a good thing. It's a reset and they can come again, and they are a good team on their day. I saw them give Chelsea a tough game at Stamford Bridge, and they were unlucky to lose that game. So they can give the biggest teams in this league a tough game, but it's not been a great season for them so far.
Yeah, I think they're struggling with the expectations, I think. Your identity crisis is a really good way of putting it, because when you do get that little bit of money and you do spend it, and this is a West Ham side that sort of back in the day, they were kind of used to sort of scrapping for relegation. They then moved to this big stadium. It's taken them a while to find their feet with that. But David Moyes initially has built a really solid team that then has got better and better, and it's added little drops of stardust in there. And now we're in a position where in 16th, it can improve very quickly, but it could also get pretty ugly for them quite quickly, because what will occur if they lose this game and lose the first couple of games when they come back, it will get pretty ugly, because people are expecting West Ham to finish, let's say, 8th, 7th most seasons now with the money that they're spending when you're buying players like Paqueta. If you look at the World Cup, and this will be interesting as well, but you should see what David Moyes does. Does he start to go, okay, look, Declan Rice can actually be a single pivot who gets on the ball all the time, and Lucas Paqueta can do either. If you look at how they played, that is perfect, isn't it?
It's ideal, and it is, like you said, it's giving him the blueprint in terms of how he can use Paqueta in this West Ham side. But it's so crazy how football goes in terms of the peaks and troughs of it, because you looked at West Ham and you heard West Ham fans bemoan the fact that they never made transfers. When they let go of Hilaire, they didn't bring anybody in. Look at the players they brought in the summer. Paqueta, Scamacca again, Maxwell Cornet, Emerson from Chelsea, Tilo Kehrer, who's a German international, and they're 16th in the Premier League table. You can't, transfers don't fix everything. And I think, like we said, it's an identity crisis. They don't know what they are and how they're supposed to play at this moment in time, but the break might have helped them.
Here's a sentence I thought I'd never say. Do you think that David Moyes is incapable of making West Ham play like Brazil? Because we've just said that, this makes, you can see it, can't you? You can see Declan Rice there, you can see Paqueta, you've got Ben Rama, who's a good player, you've got, Jared Bowen, who can get up there, you've got a target man, or Antonio, who's fantastic at times as well, Palmieri, all these players. Is David Moyes incapable of taking the handbrake off enough to get West Ham to where their fans are starting to think that they should be?
Every player you just mentioned there is almost like they could play for a different team. Do you know what I mean? So if you look at this lineup from the last game that they played against Leicester in the league, if you drew a line right through the middle, the front four and the back four are completely different profiles. You've got your back four are players who are David Moyes players who aren't too bothered about having the ball. Yeah, can I put in a 6 out of 10 every week? Can I put it into the stands here and there? And your front four are more like unpredictable. Can I get on the ball? Can I take on 3 players? Can I make something happen? And I think that's where they struggle. And that's where the question comes to: can they get them to play like Brazil? Probably not. That's David Moyes isn't that. He's not going to say to Paqueta, "Go do whatever you want," which is basically what he did at Brazil. He's then going, "Well, I've got Thomas Suchek," and he's like the safe, nice option. Him and Rice concede 1, lose 1-0 is a lot better than losing 3-1. Okay. And I think they've got that problem. And when you take on Arsenal, who I think will be coming back in, going, we cannot wait to take on West Ham, beat them in the London derby at home. Momentum's going again. I worry for West Ham.
Yeah. The last 4 fixtures have been good games. Arsenal winning 2-1, 2-0, 3-3 draw, and a 2-1 victory for Arsenal. So Arsenal generally do well in this game. We've done a whole video talking about Arsenal and Nketiah, and if he's up to it, make sure you go check that one out. Of course, he's going to have to deliver the goods for Arsenal in this game. My final question going into this one is because, of course, with Arsenal, they just want to keep going, don't they? They just want to keep that momentum up, and performances create that momentum, and they've got to start again here. Who comes into this game with more pressure on them, Arsenal or West Ham?
It's a tough one. It's almost a freebie for West Ham. They're not expected to beat Arsenal. Arsenal 5 points clear of Man City at the top of the Premier League table. Every game means something. Say Arsenal lose against West Ham, that gap is 2 points, and then there's a consensus that Man City are going to win the league.
Crisis scramble.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's more pressure on Arsenal. If you're top of the league and you're not expected to be there, every game is a cup final. Not only for you, but for the opposition as well. You are sitting top of the league. That it comes with added pressure. With West Ham, they performed admirably against the top teams in this league. They only lost 1-0 against Liverpool, lost 1-0 against United. It was a tight game against Chelsea. Losing that game 2-1, probably should have beaten Chelsea. So they performed well without getting the results, and that's the thing for West Ham. They haven't got the results this season. It could partly be down to the fact they haven't got the mentality they had. Mark Noble retiring probably has a big thing to do with that in terms of the dressing room. But the pressure, to answer your question, is on Arsenal, not West Ham.
Arsenal cannot lose. If Arsenal lose the first game back after the break, everyone's going, it's over. And it will feel that way as well, because going into the break, people were going, it's over, they'd win. It's over, they'd win. And then basically for 14 games, they kept having people going, oh man. On the 14th game, everyone went, these are the real deal. So if it goes after the 15th game, you're back to game 1.
And is that the status quo between now and the end of the season then, right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so prediction time. How do you see this one playing out? Because I think you said in one of the previous videos, there's a huge possibility of utter chaos this weekend, isn't there? Like with all these fixtures, you just don't know how people are going to come out of the wash, basically. So how do you see this one playing out?
It's a very, very difficult one to call, and it's the first game back, but it's strange with West Ham. I've watched a few West Ham games in this festive period in previous seasons, and it's always dramatic. I remember Carlos Tevez in 06. I remember somebody scored a last-minute goal for them against
great
Spurs.
Victory against Chelsea one year with Martin.
Yeah, let's not remember that. So especially underneath the lights. Anything can happen. I'm going for a 2-2 draw in this one. A good game, but yeah, point shared.
I'm going 2-1 Arsenal. GX10 on the score sheet.
Okay. Eddie, I'm backing you, son. I think you'll score a goal. I think it'll be a tight affair, though. Maybe a cagey one. 1-0 to Arsenal.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.